Came home one night after work. McKay was down at he was probably about 12, 13, 14, I can't remember exactly. 13 or 14, he was down at the computer looking and watching the sporting events called Exterras. I'm like, what's that? He goes, oh, it's where you swim, you mountain bike, and then you run in the mountains. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. He goes, yeah, I think I want to do it, Dad. There was an Exterra coming up at Snow Basin in Ogden, Utah, back when he was about, like I say, 13 or 14 years old. I thought not much of it. I says, well, if you're going to do it, you better learn how to swim. So he had a mountain bike, an old crappy mountain bike. He could run fairly decent because he was in basketball and soccer. But he didn't know he knew how to swim, but he didn't know how to swim very well. So he went down to the gym and started swimming. You know, it was 2 weeks before the event. So he started swimming, and he had to swim a half mile. He had to ride his bike, I think, 8 or 12 miles. I can't remember what it was exactly. And then he had to run 3 miles once he got to the top of Snow Basin. And we're thinking, that's cool. You know, there's 300 participants or something like that, 250, 350 participants, adults, young adults, etc. And then they had the championship division, which was more the professional, the adults, the experience, like they call it the Olympic division. Anyway, so McKay decided that he wanted to do Exterras. Got all excited about it, was watching them on the YouTube, watching their events, watching the running, watching the biking, watching the transitions, watching where they change their clothes and move into to swimming, biking, running, etc., etc. And we thought, that's cool. So he signed up. And we got down there, and there's all kinds of people. It was so cool. It was so neat, all the people that were there. And they're all really individual. To me, they're all a bunch of individuals. They're not like, it doesn't feel teamish very much at all. It feels just like a lot of individuals. And there are some really good athletes there. So the race begins. He swims a half mile. We're like, okay, start at the end. Just get out to the side and swim so you don't get drowned by anybody. I was worried about him getting drowned, you know. Anyway, swims a half mile, gets out, jumps on his bike, rides 8 or 12 miles. I don't remember what it was. Rides and rides and rides his Xterra. He rides from Pineview Dam up through the mountains up to Snow Basin. That's cool. We get up there, and now he jumps in. He's really tired. He gets his running clothes on, gets his running shoes on, and he runs 3 miles up in the mountains. Comes back, and I think he took 3rd or 6th or 8th place. I can't remember what he took exactly. It doesn't matter that much other than he did really well. He beat several hundred people. Anyway, he just had a blast, and he says, I love this. He totally loved it. Had a crappy mountain bike, didn't really know everything. So there it goes. We're started into Xterra. The next year, he starts competing in the different, I think they're called Olympic. It's more advanced. It's not the beginner Xterras, but it's the Olympic division, or where they swim a mile, they bike 12 or 18 miles. I don't know what it is. It's quite a bit, and then they run 6 miles. Well, he starts doing really well. He's competing. He's running. He's training. He's out training all the time. He comes in all sweaty. He's training. He gets really good at Xterras, and he places like 2nd in the nation that year. Then he does it again the next year, and I think he placed again 2nd in the nation, or he broke. I can't remember when he broke his sprocket, but I think that was, I can't remember. Anyway, he did really well again, and he did really, really well. He was 3rd. I don't know. He was in the top places, you know, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, something like that. Anyway, he did really well, and he turned into a really good athlete. But at first, unfortunately, anyway, I won't even talk about that. But anyway, it was a transition from soccer and basketball and all the coaches and all the manipulation that goes with, and all the politics that goes into basketball, primarily basketball, and then getting away from soccer. And now he was doing something where he was his own motivator. And that was what I thought was really cool, is that he was doing his own self-motivation. So it was really neat to see him do Xterras. And we would drive to Colorado, we'd drive to wherever, we drove all over. We drove to Lake Tahoe, just to Moab. We had several different events where he just had a blast participating in Xterras. Moab was really rocky. He didn't like that. He loved Beaver Creek up there at up in Colorado. He went there a couple times. It was a beautiful resort, snow basin. Tahoe he really liked. But anyway, the Exterras were really, to me, they were really developmental because he looked inside and he got his energy and his drive from himself, from inside, not from me, not from his mom, his coaches, nobody. He got it from his own self motivation, his natural desire to achieve. It was really a neat thing, and so anyway, that was a great time in his life. He blew out his knee. I encouraged him to wrestle, and I told him, I says, you're not going to get hurt wrestling. And then he blew his knee out, and he was never really able to do Exterras again. I feel really bad about encouraging him to do something that he got hurt with. So he tells me that not to hold. He doesn't blame me at all. But anyway, I pressed him to wrestle, and he did, and he blew his knee out. So now he doesn't really do Exterras. Maybe he will again. I don't know. But his knee is really wobbly, and it's all kind of screwed up. So, but the bottom line is he's a good young man, and that's what I think is the most important. Is I got a good young man for a son, and so there again, a lot of these things are just things that are events and activities to help us develop ourselves. And what I really want to see is a good, kind, loving father and husband from my son. I want him to be respectful of his wife and his children. So the sports are great, but they are short term. But loving your family and family relationships are critical.